The end of the Cold War and the wild 1990s in Russia was a period that has been positioned in Russia history as a time of great hardship, theft, banditry, and near total collapse of the civilized society. Recounted revision of that time explains that the appointment of President Putin to the highest office at the very end of the 1990s was the moment when new order and pride was brought back to the Russian people. To a certain extent, that was true, but it was also helped by the fact that the oil price went from about $18 a barrel to over $100 at the very beginning of the 2000s. Availability of money makes a huge difference to any society. There is no point in pretending it was not corrupt, but it also had its amusing moments. There was a turn-left traffic light in the middle of Moscow, and always a traffic policeman standing next to it. When you turned left, you went into one of the only Western hotels in Moscow at that time. The slightest hint of a tire on the white line meant being flagged down for a traffic violation. On presentation of my $20 bill for a $10 fine, the policeman went and flagged down a passing Canadian Embassy car to get change for me. You see, the policeman didn't want to upset his very lucrative patch by overcharging. This form of petty theft was deeply ingrained and still is. My last fine by a traffic policeman being in 2019. More seriously, in the late 1990s, British Telecom turned down a job to install a small satellite ground station in Chechnya. This was between the two horrendous Chechen wars of the mid and late 90s. But even then it was dangerous. BT agreed to provide the satellite link and land the transmission in UK, but another contractor did the work on the ground. The team consisted of a New Zealander, a Czech, and two British men, one of whom was a former member of the British Royal Signals. They were kidnapped and held hostage. A tiny British team was flown down from Moscow to the area, together with members of the Russian Spetsnaz, to try to find and negotiate. Sadly, they failed to make contact, and the four men were subsequently beheaded. It is clear that Chechnya is a most dangerous place, and these days still acts as a bulwark against Muslim fundamentalism moving north. We were then still allies, in a sense, with the Russians. And as you can see from this example, there were efforts ongoing to mutually assist each other. Things have not turned out well, but in those days we were trying to cooperate. And if we had been more imaginative, this relationship could have strengthened. So, the 1990s was a time of seismic change in Russia, sometimes dangerous and often corrupt. A time, I would suggest, when democracy was too free and naked capitalism was rearing its ugly head.